All right, welcome to another edition of Why Love Waits podcast. And we're doing this live every Sunday night until folks don't want to talk about it anymore. People don't want to talk about relationships and what to do. And I was hearing a lot this week about just different dynamics of relationships and different folks that have been even listening to the show and saying this is a great show. We're doing a great community service. And as I was thinking about it and thinking about purpose, right? We could have a show that's like, those Bachelor ones or the Bachelorette or, the shows that really the only purpose is to entertain. And then we could come up with a lot of controversial things. But when I was really thinking about it, if we're going to serve others, I say my prayer every single day is, dear Lord, give me the wisdom to do the things you put me on this earth to do in a way that pleases you and serves others. And as I think about that, what would be a great purpose of this show and what we do? As I think about relationships and I think about coming together and, God saying that, as I read it, that we are made for each other, that we need each other, that man shouldn't be alone. And yet we found a way in our society, we found a way in our culture right now where we've separated what I believe God has in mind. And so if we're thinking about a purpose and a way of doing this, our conversations and the things that we talk about, I think are all meant to help us understand each other so that we could spend those times that we need together. And so today's not going to be any different. We're going to talk about finances and we're going to talk about money. And, as I think about money and, folks tell, well, money's not that important. And, it's not everything. I'll hear that all the time. I never hear that from people who have a lot of it. I hear that from the people who hardly have any of it. Well, money is not important. Well, I'll just submit to you and we can even have a conversation about it at a time. But, I think money's up there with oxygen. And the reason I say that, of course, it's not everything and it doesn't heal all problems and all wounds and that kind of stuff. But I say that is because it's the way in which we transact things that we do and don't want to do. And so if we lived in an agrarian society and we raised our own chickens and we raised our own cows and our own wheat and our own things, then if that were the case, I believe we could say, okay, well, I don't need to barter. But I don't raise my own chickens and I don't raise my own cows and I don't milk my own cows and I don't grow my own asparagus and all that. So I need a way of accessing those things. And the way that I access those things is through a medium called money. And yeah, some people have a lot more, some people have a lot less, but it is the way we do. And why I say it's up there with oxygen, because if you ever have met with somebody who doesn't have it and needs to do something with it, let's say that they have a very sick child and they need to, that they need to pay for medical services because they don't have a doctor in their family that can come do it. And they're trying to get it. I hear the comments is, I don't have any, it's hard to breathe because I don't have it. And so when we think about money and we think about what it allows us to do, that's why it's up there with oxygen, not because it's this thing that we all need so much of in order to have these ravishingly great lives. It's there because we need it to do business. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go today. I wanted to just do a quick reminder that on Tuesday, today as we were filming this broadcast, we are on December 29th. That means that 2024 is leaving us on Wednesday morning. And so on Tuesday, I am doing a goal setting workshop. It's going to be from 10:30 Mountain. So I guess that would be 9:30 Pacific and 11 Central and, 12 o'clock Eastern. I'm doing a goal setting workshop with the goal and I'm feeding into it is if you focus on your goals, you will struggle. And I say that in a way that we spend so much time focusing on the have that we don't spend a lot of time focused on who we need to become and what we're doing. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. I have a former NFL, retired NFL player who's going to he's going to do the first half of it. We're going to do some mapping stuff so we get your personal line right. We're going to talk about be, do, have, and then we're going to jump into 5 personal goals that I'm going to have you work with, and they'll end up being more like outcomes. I would love you to be there. So you're brianyarnold.com/2025 goals. I think it'd be worth your while if you don't have anything to do, or if you're not doing anything that would trump your having a great 2025. Then I would love for you to be on it. And so that's what's happening this Tuesday. It's going to be a great session. There's no charge to it. There's no cost to it. It'll be just what we're doing this week so that we can enhance the lives of people that are trying to hit stuff, that are trying to do that. So I wanted to start this show today, and I have a video that kind of talks about some of this separation. And then as we go on, I'm going to have people to this time introduce themselves, right before they talk for the first time, and get this. I'm excited about having this show today because money is such a big part. It's one of those things I said, it's up there with oxygen. Well, it's something we interact with every single day as well. I don't know if there's a day that goes by that you're not spending money or making money or trying to make money every single day. In fact, I would submit to you, if you're the person who pays an electricity bill at your house, you spend money every single second of every single day, 365 days a year. And so there is some, as you're going to find today, there are some definite thoughts about how money should work, who should control the money, which is a big thing. And then, how do we utilize it in relationships? So start out with a quick video, and then we will get into having conversations. So let me hit present here. Share screen, make sure this is on, and hit entire screen, hit this. As you guys probably love how I talk about it as I'm doing it. All right, and share. Perfect.
No audio, Brian.
No audio.
All right, so I let it play twice just so that although those you could hear it, and I will let anybody. I'll just have to jump in and get your thoughts and comments on the video, and then we will turn it into relationships. So, does anybody want to start off today? All right, I guess I will call some people. All right, Nathan, what's your thoughts when you see that video?
I was still waiting for the sound to come up. I ultimately couldn't hear it. I was just trying.
Okay, well, let me play it. Let me play it again because it should have been on. Was anybody else not able to hear it?
Yeah, no audio. No audio.
I'll try it again. I don't know why. Let me try it again, and you guys tell me if you're hearing it or not, because I could hear it on my screen. But let me flip this over. Hit share. All right, hit play again.
too. And despite the fact
You
that
guys hear
Black
me
women
now?
are excelling in the face of adversity, they are still more likely to be negatively portrayed in the media and
Can you
online
hear?
than any other group in
Yes.
America.
Okay.
Here's a fun fact that they don't want you to know about. Black women are the most educated demographic in America. They'll tell you all these statistics about crime. They'll tell you every time a Black man becomes a statistic, but they won't tell you that Black women are disproportionately educated. How about the fact that Black women start more businesses than any other group of women? Black women represent 42% of new women-owned businesses, 3 times their share of the female population. Majority Black women-owned firms grew 50% from 2014 to 2019, representing the highest growth rate of any female demographic during this time frame. Yet for every dollar a white man makes, a white woman makes 79 cents and a Black woman only makes 62. And despite the fact that Black women are excelling in the face of adversity, they are still more likely to be negatively portrayed in the media and online than any other group in America. Here's a fun fact that they don't want you to know about. Black women are the most educated demographic in America. They'll tell you all these statistics about crime. They'll tell you every time a Black man becomes a statistic, but they won't tell you that Black women are disproportionately educated. How about the fact that Black women start more businesses than any other group of women? Black women represent 42% of new women-owned businesses, 3 times their share of the female population. Majority Black women-owned firms grew 50% from 2014 to 2019, representing the highest growth rate of any female demographic during this time frame. Yet for every dollar a white man makes, a white woman makes 79 cents and a Black woman only makes.
All right. You guys all heard it that time, right? Okay, so Nathan, what's your initial thoughts?
Oh, you also wanted us to introduce a little bit about ourselves.
Yeah, just say who you are. Absolutely.
I'm Nathan Francis, retired military, living in Chula Vista, San Diego, California, and a government employee. I thought those facts were wonderful, very indicative of a lot of progress that's being achieved, very positive. I know some of them are debated in other forums that I see on YouTube from other content creators, but I think they're great. I hope to see them continue, and that's kind of where I land on it right now.
Okay. Alicia, let's see who we got in here. Tia, are you able to talk?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going to echo some of that same sentiment. It's great to see progress. For me, I kind of lean a little bit over to the other side as why is all that progress necessary, and we still have all, well, I kind of know why we have all the hate, but yeah.
So let's talk about that. Talk about the hate a little bit. Why is there such hate that your demographic is the highest educated demographic in the nation, and yet making the least amount of money? What is all this hate about?
That for me is not what the hate is about. I just think Black women in general are not loved well in a lot of contexts, but that's not. I don't think it's solely based on money. I don't think it's solely based on education. I just think that in general we're underappreciated. Yeah, no, there's other parts of that conversation that I want to talk about, not necessarily that part.
All right. Tahani, what about you?
Oh, okay. So, I don't know. I might be playing devil's advocate a little bit here. While I do love, and sorry if there's like a little, I'm driving as well, but while I do love all of those sentiments for women, I think that's beautiful. I love all of our progress. A little bit about myself. My name is Tahani Lukman. I run an organization called Brotherhood Haven, helping young minority youth, really focusing on young men. And it just brings me to a board meeting that I was in last week where we were looking at our graduates in certain classes and why the women are excelling and while our men aren't. And it just made me think those numbers are great, but I wanted to know the men's numbers. As far as like their progress, like I know they're paid, I guess probably better than women, but just wondering how they're appreciated in the workspace as well. So that's kind of where I went with the video from myself.
Okay, thank you. Ashley.
Hello. Oh, hold on. Give me
We can
one
hear you.
second.
A little bit echoey.
Okay, so since we are, me and T is in the car. Tia is in the car together.
Okay.
There's a bit of it. So, my name is Ashley Collins. I am the founder of Kings and Queens Mentoring Program. I mentor at-risk teens, and I have been doing it for a little over 8 years now, and just finally expanding into the spaces and places that I need to expand into. My comment for that one, I definitely agree with you. It's a little different. Honestly, I think the more of the backlash that we get is, or what people don't understand is we have to be somewhat aggressive in a sense, and I think they take that aggressiveness in a way that, oh, they're just mad, they're this or that, and it's just because we have so much of a fight that we have to put up with. It's a fight in the workplace. It's a fight at home. It's a fight just within the streets, period. Just society alone. We're fighting just as, like, in position where men are. Men are fighting in a way that we may not understand, but I think they put us on a higher pedestal because mom was this nice person. Why can't you be like mom? And what they don't realize is mom is a sweet person, nurturing person, but at the same time she was in survival mode. And a lot of times people look at it as we're in an aggressive state, but we're really in survival mode because that's where society has put us into. That's where a lot of our men have put us into. So I think if we're uplifting the women, we're actually supporting the women that do start these businesses, that will change the narrative in a sense.
Thank you. Tanisha, I like your background this week.
Thank you. I am Tanisha Harris, founder and chief visionary officer, principal of All That I Am, which is a nonprofit working with young Black girls in our community, hosting safe space retreats and introducing them to the STEAM industry, as well as a coaching and consulting firm, All That I Am, working with organizations, nonprofits, large and small, to help them with their retention, their attrition. So my thoughts on the video is there's multiple things that are working out in my mind. So it is, someone is acknowledging that Black women are still not seen and heard in the ways that they are supposed to be. And so it's acknowledging that we are educated. But what I also see is a separation and division. It talked about the Black men, whenever something negative happens to them. On another side of it, it looks like there's still the division between the Black family, the Black woman and the Black man, and
Exactly.
us being able to hold and be educated all around holistically for our families. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. Black women are more educated and they've opened more businesses. What does it look like as the whole family? How does this help the family, the kids, the community? And I feel like there's still this separation and tear down, even in the acknowledgement of it's saying, well, Black men are negatively portrayed in this. Well, we all know that. But
Exactly.
it doesn't take away from them being educated. Just because they are promoted negatively in the limelight doesn't mean that they're not educated. It doesn't mean that they're not business owners. It doesn't mean that they are not qualified. It just means that someone has placed a stereotype on the two, and it has continued to separate us.
Thank you. John, James, what's your thought? Are you there, James?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. My name is James Young. I have a real estate business, a non-emergency medical transportation business, a trucking business, an Airbnb business in Dominican Republic. I'm also a retired Army double Bronze Star recipient, an aspiring author. I think the video, it was no surprise what was said in the video. I think the only surprise would be if I saw it in the mainstream media. I think we are portrayed negatively in all aspects, Black men and women. And there's always the stigma of the angry Black woman that prevails. If this got out in the mainstream media and it was widely publicized of the achievements of Black people, right? Then who would everybody else have to step on, right? I think that it was blaringly obvious to me when I had a corporate dinner, and one of the games we played was guessing Black inventors, right? They only knew 2 Black inventors, a whole room full of people. So that just goes to show that our achievements and our what's the word I'm looking for? Our achievements and the things that we've done worldwide are not being exposed like they should, and that would change people's interpretation of us. I think Black men are not where Black women are because Black men are more adversarial than Black women. When I met Nathan in the Philippines, I just walked up to him and started talking. And we don't do that in the States. Very rarely do you walk up to a Black man walks up to a strange Black man and say, "Hey, hello, how you doing? What are you doing here?" So on and so forth. So I think that's the difference, and that's why Black men are not as far ahead as Black women.
So are you saying that Black women will approach other Black women right away, and that's part of the reason that relationships thrive?
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen Black women out kind of like on a joint date. There's 3 or 4 Black women together eating out or whatever. I very rarely see 4 brothers eating out together and laughing and talking and hugging each other. So just an observation.
Okay, gotcha. So when we think about now, if we transpose that, let's start adding the finance part in there. So if I guess the first question I want to ask is the relationship between education and finance, because we've all been taught or told, at least from the folks that I'm seeing on here, the generations that we're part of, you go to school, you get a good education, you get a good job, and then that creates happiness and wealth and all these things that you're able to do. And yet, from what the video is saying, is that the education isn't translating to the income. And what are some of the reasons for that, and some of the things maybe that we can do about it if that's the case? Because where I'm going with this is, after we kind of talk about the education, is does now feeling that you're more educating, feeling that you should have more money for what you do, contributing to us not being able to be in relationship with each other? So let me hear your thoughts. First on just education converting into finances.
I don't know if being educated and financially educated are the same thing.
Okay.
So you can be educated, but not understand money and how money works and understand finances, because there's a difference. Money is a resource, it is a tool. But to be financially educated is a whole nother part to education. And a lot of us, and I won't speak for everyone, we don't have a good relationship with money. So it doesn't matter how educated we are in a lot of spaces and places. If we don't believe that we're deserving of it, we won't accept it, and we will at least ourselves, or try to justify why money is not as important, versus understanding how money works in the relationship and understanding that it is a resource and a tool, but we are deserving of it as well. We don't have to believe that money is the root of all evil, but also understanding what it means to be financially stable and independent and wealthy. You got to be able to break it down for someone. Financially stable means that you have a great relationship with money, but you're willing to take those risks in order to get to another level. And I don't know if everyone is there yet. So to put those two together, I think it causes confusion and a distorted mindset.
Very well put.
So I think there's a distortion. I think there's a distortion in priorities. I don't necessarily think that the priority is on healthy relationship in the first place. What are we taught from little by Black women? Oh, our Black mothers. What are we taught? For the most part, you don't need a man, and a lot of the times these are unhealed women because they have been hurt. So I think some of the messaging is skewed, some of the messaging is incorrect, some of the messaging is unhealthy, some of the message is clouded in wounds. So if we're taught to be independent, you have to be. You can't depend on a man. You have to take care of your kids. Let me go back. I was taught. I don't want to speak for all Black women. However, there are some very clear patterns in how a lot of us Black women were raised. But for me, I was taught really just by observation. I said it the last time I was on. I was like, men don't stay, men leave, men hit, and when you have children, your children are your responsibility. So the messages that I was seeing is that I have to take care of it regardless. I've got a t-shirt that says, I'll figure it out, signed every Black woman. Why is that our narrative? Because we haven't been able to be dependent. One, we haven't been taught how to be dependent, healthy interdependence, not codependent, interdependence. We also haven't been modeled healthy relationship dynamics in the first place. So for me, that's where I go with the relationship piece and the finances. If I've been taught I have to be independent and I got to take care of it and I got to handle it, I'm not going to be in a space where I'm depending on you to take care of it. If education is the thing that's promoted to me to help me get to the place that I need to be financially, I'm not concerned with the relationship part. And then I'm attaching the need for you on that as well. There's also a piece of the success sequence is great, and that's what that sequence is. The success sequence is great in context. Not taking all the factors that a Black family, I don't want to say a typical Black family, but not taking all the cultural nuances of what we experienced growing up into account, the success sequence is great. But when you do take all those pieces into account, it's significantly flawed. If there's interruptions to that sequence, if there's a family disruption to that sequence, if there are areas that are not, if there's access that's an interruption to that sequence, there's a lot of things that are nuanced in our community that I don't think we take into account if someone is not in that similar situation. That play a role in all of those pieces together being prioritized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things that I'm hearing that you're saying, and then as part of the issue with money is if you're taught to be independent and you're taught to the man might leave and you're taught these things that don't go together when you think about, Tanisha was talking about how, money, we're not giving money education. And in money education, you would say, well, if you can bring two incomes together and then you have more to be able to invest or to do things or to, increase money if you have that. But if one person is so afraid that they're going to have to figure this out by themselves, they might be pulling stuff back or not contributing to that, relationship because they're thinking they already have an out, and they're saying, I guess my grandma used to have a jar that had a whole bunch of money in it that she would take every time Grandpa came in and gave her the money to pay all the bills, but there was always this separate fund, a savings fund that he never knew about. How do we?
Just in case of your rainy day fund, absolutely. But it's not that we want to do that. It's necessity. What's been modeled, what's been seen, what's been proven. So it's necessity. So it's not healthy. But at the same time, what are the competing narratives? So I think there's a lot that we have to unlearn to be one. There's too many areas that we have to unlearn some of these behaviors, because a lot of this is survival. So I don't think a lot of us want to, well, I'm going to remove myself because I'm not in that space anymore. But there was a lot that I had to unlearn and dismantle and take some really hard looks at in order for me to be in a successful relationship. And have all of those pieces come into play.
Okay. Are you saying, when you say it wasn't modeled, do you believe that most, and in this case we're talking about Black women, and anybody can chime in here as well, most Black women are not modeled that, that's what I'm thinking, because I have 8 children and 3 of them are daughters. And, when I think about what they were modeled, I don't see that, but I don't know how prevalent that is, because I don't think I was the man that was not taking care of business, that wasn't providing, that wasn't, there doing what was necessary in our home.
I think I can't generalize for all women, because that's not the reality. I do think we have to take into account how people grew up, where people grew up, who their circle of people were. Most of the time, if you're an intact family, then you're probably going to have other intact families around you. There might be the one-off where, there's a separation or a split or a non-intact family. But if you're around mostly intact or detached families, I'm trying to figure out a word. If you're mostly around detached families and your family is a detached family, what are you seeing? Mm-hmm. So when I'm doing relationship education, I'm asking people, what were your models? Where did you see this particular situation in your everyday life? How often did you see it? Who is the first couple that is together, married couple that is together for a significant amount of time, like over 10 years, that you've seen and that you have regular access to? Because I think there's wisdom that gets missed, and there's a lot of value in unattached parents that they offer. There's a lot of value in just the people that we have around us anyway, but most folks are surrounded by folks that are like them. So if it's not been modeled for you in your close circle or your immediate environment, where are you seeing it modeled? On TV? And most of the time with TV, them weren't us.
Gotcha. So Denise, or who else wants to go in? Whoever wants to jump in.
So going back to the correlation between education and income, these days that's skewed because there's all kind of ways to make income. You do podcasts, TikTok, there's you can go to IT school for a few months and then make more than somebody with a master's degree. So I think as Black people, we need to go back to the trades, electricians, plumbers, stuff like that, because they making the money, right? I thought when I got my master's, man, it would be raining money. But that's not so, because a lot of the people that you're depending to hire you are non-Black, right? White people can hire white people, Spanish people can hire Spanish people, Indians, but Black people don't have that kind of access. And it's historical, right? Slavery, we lost 600 years there, 400 years, whatever it is. So we're playing catch up now, right? And then as far as relationships, 3 things, and I said this before, 3 main reasons why relationships fail: finances, communication, and infidelity, right? So we're talking about finances tonight, and that's a great subject. I will say that in my first marriage, I learned a lot of what not to do with finances. My second marriage, I treat it like a business, okay? We have a joint account for accounts payable and accounts receivable. I have my account, she has her account. Of course, I spend money on her and she spends on me, but we basically run it like a business, right? We know we got taxes to pay, whatever. We have our files there. That's a beautiful thing. Now, if you're dating, finances is a whole different realm, right? Because I will say when I was single, I had, females I was dating, they wanted to know what I could do for them. I need my nails done, my hair done, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? And that's not all. I'm kind of generalizing, but I was in the I was in the single realm for 11 years, right? And I had a lot of bad. Now, I've I dated women across the spectrum, but mostly women of color, and it was always about the bag, right? I'm sure it's more so now, right? Because, and I understand security. Everybody wants security. My wife will tell you that, security is the main focus. I got that. But as long as somebody's willing to grow with you and, has some kind of ambition, is a beautiful thing. And like I think it was Tia that was talking about the family, the nuclear family, when you have everybody together, right? You can learn from each other. But I think the table conversations we have at dinner don't revolve around finances. We talk about Jesus, we talk about, the man in the moon, sports, the latest dance out, but we don't talk about finances enough. I didn't know anything about money until I went to school and had to educate myself. So I think most black people are in that situation. We know about savings accounts, checking, credit cards, CDs, and stuff like that, but we don't know about the stock market and higher forms of investing. But basically it.
So with that, do you, and I want to both people, Ashley, I'll start out with you, should marriages be run like a business?
Yes. I mean, if we look at history, it's always kind of been a business transaction. That's really what marriage is about. It's really about building wealth, building generational wealth. And so if we really look at it in terms of finances, if I leave this earth and just give them a little chunk of change, I did not complete my mission. I am still leaving my children into poverty, which is something that, yes, we do fear. So in the end, I definitely do agree that it should be a transitional thing, but also business is business in romance could be a blur to some. And so it's really defining those two lines. That's what I do believe.
Gotcha. So, and I just want to add. So when I think of business, I think of kind of what James was talking about: accounts receivable, accounts payable. You bring your money in, that can be spent on, like, you split up the bills, like you pay this bill, this bill, this bill. You pay this bill, this bill, this bill. We'll put a few bit dollars together, but it's for the good of the business. And we have business meetings and we have transactions. And I can see where you were saying, how does that emotional piece of loving one another turn into a business transactional with all of our finances, but the rest of the relationship is not based on business or that. How do you see that working?
For me now, in the beginning, it was a little difficult because I was very overprotective about what I had, and I just didn't want my partner to eventually run off with the money that we had. That was like my whole thing. But then that ties into trust. You have to actually trust this, and you have to literally sit down, create these boundaries that make sense for each other, and constantly go back into, okay, hey, this worked last year for us. What did we fail in as far as finance? Where do we fall short as far as our finances? So it's, yes, it could be accounts payable, but also you have to know who your partner is. let's put it that way. Not everyone is that responsible. You may have that one person that is the driven person that'll say, hey, I paid these XYZ bills, and we're set for this vacation, or we're set for this and that. The other person may be incompulsive. They may be that spender that sees something and spend. So when it comes down to finances, you have to also remember there's a bookkeeper that comes in with businesses. There has to be a bookkeeper. There has to be an accounting. So I think just having that responsibility and understanding those responsibilities as a partner, then it will help out as far as romance. Then you can kind of, have that relaxed moment and really say, okay, now we can be hubby and wifey. But you got to know who your partner is. That's all I can say.
So you brought up a very interesting word, trust. In God we trust, everybody else must pay cash, right? Only co-sign for Jesus, right? That's what I was brought up to believe.
Only on the cash is printed trust, but not the card. So which one are we gonna trust?
So here's the thing, right? This is just me now. If we're dating, right? We should each have our own finances. We shouldn't commingle and save on anything unless we are engaged or getting ready to be married, whatever. If you live with somebody, yes, split those house bills, but you should have your own money, right? Just in case something happens, you need a exit route, escape plan, right? Like Tia was talking about. I have 28 siblings, right? And a lot of them are sisters, and I would hit them over the head because I've heard a lot of issues with trust that come up in relationships, right? And I've been told I was cold or whatever because I don't believe in investing something that is not going to pay off, right? I've seen guys buy cars for women and they get in the car and drive off with another guy. Right? I'm being honest with you. There's a guy here that I mentor, a very intelligent young brother. He's from Ghana. He makes $220,000 a month. I mean, a year. And his girl that he lives with makes similar cash. They bought a house together over here, right? That's $420,000 investment that you made together, and you're not married. What happens if you split up? Or she gets up one day and says, you know what? I don't want to be with you no more. Your underarms stink, right? Then what are you going to do, right? You're out of half of your money, right? You're looking sad and stupid. I just don't believe in that level of trust until we get there, right? I trust my wife implicitly because we have that piece of paper that says we have a legal bond, right? But anybody else?
I can agree to a point. Yes, the co-mingling before we were together and but I think you can't even get to that conversation of trust. You can't even get to a point of trust until you're willing to have the conversation. So, and these are open, naked, transparent conversations. So, like, what are the context of the conversations that folks that are in dating relationships have right now are super limited, and they're very much surface level, and they're very much my representative, meet your representative, and ooh, let's show the best of ourselves. So we're not even having those kinds of conversations. And again, I'm working with teenagers right now, so our adult folks are not even teaching our young people to have these critical conversations. Look, if I can't have a hard conversation with you on the front end and we're just in this talking phase or whatever they call it right now, before we even get to dating, I can't have a hard conversation with you, it's not worth it. The cost is too great because you're going to cause me grief. So just having our babies get to a point where they can understand that, hey, you have to be able to move past surface level conversations to get to some of this hard stuff. And what are you even dating for? So dating, yes, I do think we should not be commingling anything. I think you need to have yours and I need to have mine. And then when we're talking about actually entering into a dating relationship, to me, dating should be for marriage. And I wasn't always under that belief. But I think dating should be for marriage. So if we're in that space and that's what we're talking about, then the level of our conversations needs to upgrade with the level of the relationship that we are trying to have. Marriage is a whole different situation, but you have a lot of people entering into marriages, signing that piece of paper, and they haven't had those critical conversations. So in that respect, a piece of paper ain't gonna save you either. So because we're not having the conversations in the first place, trust can't even be established because we're not willing to have the conversations. Oh, but I want to get married so bad. I want to be with this person so bad. I love this person so bad. No, I'm good. If I can't talk to you,
Yeah.
and you can't
So
talk to me, and I'm not willing to submit myself, my listening ears to you, and you are not willing to submit your listening ear to me, and we can't be honest and transparent, a piece of paper is not going to help. And again, people have polluted what marriage is.
right. Before we get to that piece of paper, we're going to have all those deep conversations, and we're going to make some kind of come to a consensus on how we're going to live, right? My second wife, right? We joke all the time. I basically gave her a contract and a counseling statement. This is what I will accept. This is what I won't accept. This is how it's going to be. Blah blah blah. Right? And we have boundaries. Right? I'm not coming. I don't even go to clubs or anything. Right? Too old. But if I was to, I'd be home at a decent hour, and I let her know where I'm at. She lets me know where I'm at. Right? Our best time that we should have is out at a nice dinner, getting dressed up, coming home. You know, meet with friends, cracking jokes, stuff like that. But you have to have those conversations. The paper is not even in the plan. When I meet you, I'm looking at you as a person. Okay, that person's attractive, blah, blah, blah. And then it's going to be some time, right? I dated my wife for 6 months before I even thought about it, right? Because of her personality. And we had a common vernacular. If you don't have that, and I agree with you, right? But on the first date, you're not going to have those conversations, right? You might say, what do you want? What are you interested in? Blah, blah, blah. But you're probably not going to get a firm answer because, again, you're meeting that representative, right? I've sent my representative on many dates, right? But I keep it as real as I can, right? I wouldn't even know how to date anymore because I'm straight to the point, right?
Well, and James, what I see there is I see maturity, and I see a relationship that didn't go the way it was supposed to, and then you saying this is how it's going to be our second time around. But we can't expect most of our young men to have that much maturity and have that same type of belief system that, hey, I'm going to make you sign a paper. I'll ask Tanisha, should every marriage start with a prenuptial agreement?
I don't believe in those.
I would be offended.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, the reason why is because I've been married the traditional way. And the prenup, it's like, if I'm coming into this relationship, I am ready to experience everything that I am supposed to experience in this relationship. So if I come into it with assets and all of that, yes, I want to make sure that they're protected. But the goal isn't to lead with the prenup of like, this is mine, and with the intent of it ending. And so I don't think that's necessary because I think it's putting too much on it. I think my assets should probably be protected before I'm in this relationship. Prior to whomever it is that I'm with, I should have already protected them. It should be in a trust. It should be all of these things, but not a prenup when I'm getting married to say that I'm looking for this to end. It's just different for me. I'm ready to experience this particular journey and grow from it and learn from it.
Well, there's a fear, that I guess both on the men's side and the women's side, there's a fear that it's going to end. Like, I heard on this call already today that we need to have an exit plan. And to me, that's like, oh my gosh, why would I start something that's a covenant if I believe in covenants that is already ready to break up before I even get started? I know a few weeks ago, James talked about his nephew saying, why should I get married if I have to give up half? Right. And so if we go into it with believing that we have to be able to exit it, then why are we going to it? And I guess my question is this part of what's separating us from even getting together or having relationships that are meaningful, knowing that we're just putting our toe in the water?
So if I can answer that question, right? Think of it like this. You drive a car not thinking you're going to get in an accident, right? You get insurance for your car. It's mandatory, of course. But it's like having car insurance, right? I don't expect to get in an accident, but it might happen. So if I come in a relationship and I got $2 million and you have lint in your pocket and we get married and get divorced, right? you shouldn't be able to take half of my stuff that I worked hard for, right? Now, I don't have a prenup with either wife, right? Because you do have to have a modicum of trust, but I do understand the concept. Look at Tyrese. Tyrese has been talking about his wife taking half. She never loved me. He's crying, oh God, snot bubbles and everything, right? That could have been avoided if he had a prenup, right? He thought he knew her, because you could date for a while and think you know somebody, and then money changes a lot of people, right? Especially in our community. If you never had any money, I grew up in the projects till age 5. All the people I was around never had no money like that, right? $1,000. Wow, you got $1,000? They partied up, toss around, they don't invest or do whatever. So when they get an opportunity to latch on to somebody and suck their lifeblood, which is money, right? That's most likely going to happen. I'm generalizing, but I hope everybody understands what I'm saying. It's kind of like having car insurance. So the prenup is not just one-sided.
Yeah.
It's
my wife's not a car, James. My wife's not a car, so why would I need insurance?
I feel like that is like if you look at it like a car, once you go off the lot, the value's gone. So you got to give a different value.
But dang, I'm just looking at it from an aspect like, so I hear you with like having it insured, but this is what I'm talking about, protecting. You're not going to wait till after you get in the relationship to try to protect what you've already. It should be whoever you're going into that relationship is in addition to, they're adding value. You're adding value to their lives. So I don't know, like, why protect it afterwards? Why is it like, do you trust yourself? Do you trust that the decisions you've made with your assets and protect it? Like, you do that prior to, and then this is value that you add. And if this person has lint in their pockets, right, it is finding out from them when you meet them, what are their dreams and aspirations? Is it the fact that they just didn't have access to resources and that they have the potential, or they're able to gain more assets, and you help show them how you did it so they can too protect theirs and like build together? I look at it in that sense, like adding value to their lives, and everything that I do in every space, place, or person's life I encounter, I want to add value. But I've already protected me and my assets prior to, and so this is coming together to complement.
So here's my question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to ask. She said I've already protected my assets. How do you do that? If it's not a prenuptial and it's not, are you like hiding money in an offshore?
No, because you got to trust. So do we even talk about trust when we're talking about finances? It was something that I had to learn. It wasn't taught to me in my family, but having a trust, protecting your assets. You alone are a business in an entity. This is why there's Social Security numbers. So if we're going to go back from the beginning, when our parents signed over, this is how we get our Social Security numbers, and we are this entity. You're supposed to protect yourself, just like you protect that car or you protect that house. You have homeowners insurance or whatever it is. You're supposed to protect yourself and your being. So if you start an LLC, you start a corporation, you're going to put that in a trust, and everything under that are entities within. You protect that. But these are conversations that are not taught in school. This is conversations that you learn maybe at a later age. It's something that I learned later. But that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, if at all. Yeah. So, but we're having this conversation about finances. And you asked about prenup. I just don't think it's necessary if you've already done the things that you're supposed to do prior to getting in that relationship to protect yourself, because now you are educated and you can educate them if they never knew. And it's not a thing of like making them feel less than. It's just saying, hey, this is what I did. I see what you have to offer. You maybe never had that opportunity, but here's the steps, so that you can too protect yourself. And if that's the conversation that you're going to have, this relationship not be the test of time, last the test of time, you're going to walk away with something as well that is protected, you'll walk in with more. It's not about taking from that other individual. Because if we have that mindset, then it's already doomed that you're getting in this relationship and that person, first of all, is going to end, but that person may take everything that I built on. It's already destined for disaster. That's my thoughts.
So,
y'all talk. I've only been married the traditional way once. I got another situation that's beautiful now. So yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. So back to what you were saying, right? There's only two ways that you get to know a person, right? Either you live with them or do business with them, right? So always remember, you're meeting their representative through the whole dating process, whatever. You guys live together, things might change. I'm not saying it's going to change necessarily, but it may change, right? And then the majority of divorces are initiated by women, right? So the men should protect themselves. I'm sorry. I'm just telling you the stats.
So
don't shoot the messenger. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
But if we're bringing our representative, both people are bringing their representatives, and we're getting married, and the women are the ones that are initiating the divorce, who's actually changing?
Who's growing? Who's growing within the relationship? Who's growing out of the relationship? Okay.
So we got to take it by a case by case basis.
Nathan's face is hilarious right now.
He knows I'm telling the truth. It's a case by case basis. I mean, I wish I could bring some of the brothers in here who've got their feelings hurt or who've lost finances, right? Because they thought they were marrying a woman that was true to them and all that. They had all this conversation, whatever. They got married. Into the marriage, they found out that he snored too loud or something. I'm just spitballing here. I can't give you a specific example. Right?
I feel like they showed themselves at the beginning and it was overlooked. I feel like that, and I'm not blaming the men in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm saying is that woman was who that woman was, and sometimes we want to see the best in someone. Sometimes we ignore for the fact of, and so those are our decisions. It has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with self. So in my relationship, whatever didn't go right or however, like I was getting the energy back, I had to go internal to what was I giving out and how was I showing up. So I feel like that individual had already showed their card, their hand, and it was not taken seriously. And so the outcome was that they showed themselves truly like, oh, okay. There was no respect of their selves. Again, this has everything to do with the individuals coming in. You can send the representative, but baby, there is only a certain point in time that it all comes out and shines.
I don't know. Some people need to get Emmys for their acting, right?
Some people need to take time to make pickers better.
I'm sorry?
Some folks just need to take time. You shouldn't be in relationships. Some folks just don't need to be in relationships. You can't see red flags when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. So when you're in that space where you having these love feelings, we're not teaching our kids the difference between infatuation and actual love. And again, if you haven't seen it modeled, it's going to be distorted and you're going to fall for the okie doke. But again, that goes back to my point. We're not asking good questions in the first place. And you said, to make the questions that you asked, I've already been married and divorced. I was in a 15-year marriage, still a long-term marriage. I learned some lessons. I learned what I wanted. I learned what I didn't want. So I'm going to ask these questions on the front end because I don't want to waste my time.
So can I ask you a question, Tia?
Of course you can.
Did you have those conversations with your husband?
My first one?
Was it? Yeah. First one?
No.
Oh, okay. So why didn't it happen? You just said that. Maybe I'm confused, huh?
So this is my second marriage, healthier now, but I learned a whole lot of lessons. I developed my standards. So that's what I said in that first call. I developed my standards after my first marriage.
Ah.
So but there were lessons that I learned, but when I walked into my first marriage, I walked in wounded. I walked in with what was modeled for me and what was not modeled for me. I walked in unhealthy. I learned how to become healthy in that marriage. I credit my ex-husband for teaching me how to be a wife. He just taught me how to not be his wife. He taught me how to be somebody else's wife. But he allowed me the space, and I love him dearly for that. He allowed me the space for me to grow And then it got to a point where he was not willing to continue to grow. So I outgrew him and I outgrew this relationship. And I needed, for my health, for my wealth, for my safety, for my mental well-being, for my protection, for me, and for the health of us to co-parent well and be friends, I had to remove myself from that relationship. The marriage that I'm in now is one that came completely in a surprise space, but I was doing the work on myself. I had been doing the work on myself for 3 years prior. And my standards were created based off of what I did not set in the first place and what I did not choose right in the first place, which is part of why I teach how I teach now. Because if I could go back and do it all over again, I still wouldn't, because there's some critical lessons that I learned. But I want our young people now, and even our grown people now, to learn something different and move differently, because there's lessons. And if you want something different, you have to do something different. And you have to be willing to divorce yourself from stuff that no longer serves you, that doesn't serve you well, that steals your joy, steals your peace, and is not aligned. I entered into a marriage that was not ordained, that was not aligned. And so I reap the repercussions of that relationship and of my human choices.
So you proved my point. You proved my point.
Okay.
That until you get married, right? Thank you for helping me out there. Right, because I was feeling outnumbered for a minute, right? But you proved my point. You can be married and think that you did all the vetting and everything else, and you find out something's wrong. My first marriage, I loved my wife to death. Friends, lovers, and business partners. All of those things need to be worked on to have a successful marriage, right? But it wasn't until I got married until I understood that she was not good with money, because we all had our own things. She was making, for instance, she made a $20,000 purchase. I was a young buck then in the military in 1993. She made a $20,000 purchase of a timeshare in Pennsylvania. What? It didn't tell me. Pennsylvania? What are we going to Pennsylvania for? What are you talking about? Right? Didn't agree with it. I thought it was out of bounds. And it was one of many things that led to me initiating the divorce, because I'm not going to be broke and mess up my military career. I had top secret clearance. I can't be in the negative or have bad credit, right? So I had to get out of that situation. But I did not know that from dating her. She was the salt of the earth. I mean, you know.
Did you ask?
Did I ask her what?
Did you ask about her money habits? Did you ask about her opinion of money? Did you ask about her experience with money? Did you ask about her upbringing? Did you ask about what she observed? Did you ask about any of those things when it came to finances? Did you have conversations about setting what are our financial expectations with each other? What are our financial agreements with each other? What are our financial demands of each other? What are our financial needs of each other? What are things that are out of bounds? What are things that you think that you want? What are things that what are our habits? Did you ask?
Man, you take a deep breath, Tia. That was a lot.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I was going to ask what the questions were.
But so how do you ask somebody about their finances?
Maybe let's talk about finances.
Yeah, you just say, hey, let's talk about money.
Right, let's talk about money. Most people are gonna lie. If you ask about your credit score,
let me see your bank account. Let me see.
People are not going to be honest. Right?
Let me see your bank statements. Let me see your credit profile. If you're in a space where you're entertaining people that can't be honest, you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong space, entertaining the wrong people.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think I just want to say, James, really quick. People of course are gonna lie, because who's gonna be honest and tell you that they have? I agree. But I also agree with what Tia was. I mean, I'm honest. I feel you, Tia, but. People don't lie though. What I will say is asking their parents' spending habits. How was it growing up? Like I've been with my fiance. I've been with my fiance since I was 16 years old, right? And as a kid, people would be like, "Dang, you were grilling him like that." I'm like, "Yeah, I wondered how his mom spent money. How when he got money or allowance, how did you spend money?" Because I was a saver. Even as a child, I've always been a saver. I don't really know what I was going to spend it on, but buying clothes and buying candy wasn't it for me. So, like, I would ask him those type of things because I'm a big on family security. So I do agree with, if you past questions like that would help better assess a person, because, most people are going to love my baby to death. But when I first met him, he was like, "Yeah, I got money. I'm balling with the chain." And I'm like,
Yeah, and I think if everyone, I've heard several people say that they use the business model, like a marriage is a business. then everything should kind of flow from there. I think I put in the comments that people should have a good review. If you're using the business model, then we have a credit review. We have a history of behavior review, because those are things that they look at when you start a business. And I think if you're not mature enough, or you're dealing with someone that can't handle those questions, then you already know from Jump Street, you can't go any further no matter how much you want to. Because I've been in that situation where you're getting, the hand and the whole thing. Credit report, bank statements. Plus, actually, if you're really going to marry someone, you should kind of know that stuff anyway. But let's say you don't. Then you have a hard review period where, let me see your bank statements. Let me talk to your parents. Let me see your college degrees if that's important to you. Medical. Let me see your medical history. I mean, get in there. If you're saying you're going to get in there, then get in there and understand all that. And someone who wants to be your spouse, I would think, would want to share all that. So I think when we're honest with ourselves, most times we go back and say, look, we didn't ask the hard questions, right?
Right. So we're talking about dating, not marriage, right?
We've been talking about marriage.
We are talking about
Marriage as the end goal.
So
sorry about that.
Even when I had some business partners, okay, let's do this. Let's sit down. Show me your credit. Show me your bank statement. Show me all that.
Right. Would you require that of a business partner?
Yes.
So why would you not require it of your spouse, your potential spouse?
Boom.
Because my relationship should not be based around money. It should be based around love. Money is a secondary thing.
Wait, I want to say, looking at the marriage as a business is not relating it to money. I will say that an older woman, when I was struggling with, I want to get engaged, and I was like, I don't know. And she told me, honey, you're a business owner. A marriage is simply a business deal. If you think you could run a business with this man, and I don't know, it was really, a lot of people kept talking to me about marriage and it wasn't clicking for me. But when she said that, for me, it was like, oh, that makes sense, because even not on a financial side, but do you trust this person to work with them every day? Do they annoy you? Can you be in their space? Can you build with them? Just all of that goes into a business partner, because if I'm annoyed with you, I don't want you to be in my everyday space. We're not going to be everyday partners. I can do associate work, but not an everyday partner. So for me, when she said that, I was like, that's probably the smartest thing anyone has ever told me. And so I would just say, take out the financial or the money component, because there's so much more that ties into that aspect of that.
Exactly. So friends, lovers, business partners. So the finance is just part of it. But if you're financially stable, and I think I'm pretty financially stable, the money is not necessary. If I like you, first of all, we got to have some friendship, right? Then we have to have the lovers part, and then the finances should be kind of at the end, in my mind, right? I love my wife to death because we meet those three criteria, right? Different than the first marriage, right? But when you see somebody, say, I wonder what they got in their bank account, right? It should be about love and attraction first, and then you talk about money later, right? But I guarantee you, any of y'all beautiful women that go meet a guy, you go on a date, you're not gonna say, "Hey, how you doing, baby? What's your credit score? Can I see your bank account?" Because they're gonna leave that table so quick. I know if somebody said that to me, I'm not shy.
I feel like honestly, if you can tell, I don't really think you have to ask that question. If you can go into their closet, you can honestly see what their shopping habits look like. If you can go in their closet and they'll, I got Gucci, I got this, I got that, automatically you already know, okay, they're an expensive shopper.
Not true.
They may not be, but okay, well, they like to shop. And most of the time they'll tell you, let's do this, let's do that. If they're constantly outgoing, it's little behaviors that you can pick up just to see what they're really about. I think it's just all the matter of observing them and not necessarily doing this and doing. I feel like if you get to know someone, you do have to observe them in this sense, right? I
don't want to pick it up. I want to be assured, and I'm assured because I'm asking questions, I'm doing the investigation, and I'm also observing. So I'm observing consistency, I'm observing inconsistency, I'm observing congruency. So, but I'm also going to ask them questions because I want to see how you're going to react, how you're going to respond. That's one beautiful thing that my mom always taught me. You should never be afraid to ask a question, but you should always pay attention to the response. People can tell you anything, but pay attention to the response.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of broke people. I know a lot of broke people that are wearing Versace and Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all that. That doesn't say anything what you got in your bank account. Okay.
Right.
But it does say to the habits. It does say
it's the
what
habits.
they believe in and what they want.
So because you're buying those things, you might not have no change left over for the bank. Right. So
but those are conversations. I think that one of the words that should be inputted in here is effective communication. And so when you're having these conversations, they should be effective. Like there should be something you're listening to understand. It's sometimes what is not said that is providing you the information that you need. But we're not even having effective communications because we're so ready to respond or to react. Sometimes if we just pause and listen and observe, we are given the information that we need. And then sometimes, just based on their upbringing, it is not that they don't want to have more. They've never been in a place that they could gather that information, or it was like you're around gatekeepers. So you don't know what you don't know until you have this conversation. And then the space is safe enough to share, here is what it is. But that is going to come from the effective communication. So if my credit score, if I had an 850 credit score, and it's not something that I talk about with everyone because maybe the individuals around me are like, oh, you got an 850 and you think you're this or you think you're that or whatever, or I don't want to deal with you. Maybe in this conversation with this relationship of the person that you're dating, when the space is created and it's safe and the communication is effective, you're going to share that. Just like the same thing, if that person's credit score is a 620, they'll be safe enough to express that and I'm looking to increase my credit score. I just don't know how. I'm at a 620. I know that is not the worst, but it's not the best. And I want to figure out how to get to that 850. I'm not going to dismiss that 620 because they're asking and seeking out information. All right, baby, this is what I did. You ready to listen? Or do you have the capacity for this right now? And it is figuring out the steps to get there with them. But we don't communicate effectively. We assume, we judge, we tear down. We look at family history, but we don't understand that history was something that they were brought into. It doesn't mean that's where they are going to stay or where they want to be. Effective communication.
That's good. So let me jump in here, James, just for a second, because one of the things that I think is the reason that money has been an issue, and it's not, is because we don't talk about it. I don't think anybody who has an 850 score, it's like I haven't met the person who has an 850 score that doesn't want people to know they got an 850 score. They tell you they got one. It's the guy who has a 467 that doesn't want to tell you he's got a 467. I know. But if we think about it, if you're listening, and I agree with you so much, if you're listening to be understood, or are you listening to respond? And so many of us spend our time listening enough to be able to respond that we're not thinking about, are we being understood? And if you think of the word that love is blind, right? We're going to do all these things because we love the person, and we miss all the cues that are showing up, right? Because we know where he works, or we know where she works, right? And we know if they're working for $1 per hour and they're trading times for money and they don't own a business, they're making a certain income. And then they show up with the Mercedes, and you go, wait a minute, the income that you have doesn't equal what you're buying. If that's my buying habit, I need to know that. And so these conversations have to happen. It's not I'm worried about what you're going to tell me, and if I'm worried I'm going to lose you if you have to tell me what your finances are like or what your buying habits are like. If that's the case, you don't need to be with that person. You have to be willing to say, look, we need to have this conversation, because if we're going to spend the rest of our lives together, we're going to have to come together. And marriage is compromise, right? So, what are you willing to live with? If you go to, let's go look at some model homes, and you start looking at furniture, And then they say, well, let's go to the rental center to buy some of this because that's what I want. Then you go, wait a minute, ding, 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 ding. That's not going to work, or whatever it is that you're thinking of. But if you start coming together on how you would do that, even do some simulations of, okay, so if we did this, this, and this, what would that look like? What kind of house would you like to live in? I want to buy a house. Well, renting's okay. Those are the conversations, as Tia's saying, and all the questions that you're asking, these have to. It's up there with oxygen. Remember, that's how I started the show. Money is up there with oxygen. You have to have these conversations if we're going to turn around our status in the community, our status in what we understand about money, our status about learning money. And it's okay not to know. I don't know. I've never been in this situation. I've never seen it before. Who can we go to that can help us? Or if you know it, I want to listen to you and learn from you. I think that's all part of that give and take of the relationship. But the key is we can't be worried about what other people think to have these conversations.
That's for sure. I think a big thing too, like some people mentioned that people might be afraid to reveal things about themselves, is I think trainability. I know we used that word a couple of sessions ago, but I'm going to stick with it for this one. Teachability.
Thank you.
There we go.
Teachable. Okay. Just for a while, I was dating women who were significantly less educated and had significantly less finances than I do. And it was blatantly obvious based on where these women were located. However, I did want to, so I knew going in, there's going to be some massive differences. But what I was looking for, if I was going to pursue those women, was teachability. And I would talk to them and say, hey, can I take you under my arm and school you on budgets and how I would want you to run my household and things like this. And then you get a sense of how serious and mature and truly marriage-minded some people are. I think that would apply in the United States as well, is that if you do have more education or more money, then maybe the person says, hey, I'm not on the same level as you, but if we're going to, try to yoke this unyoked union, then I'll learn from you. We'll work together. And I think that's where you can bridge the gap.
So here's one thing that we're missing. Men don't care about a woman's money. When I was dating, I could care less about how much money she's making, as long as she can take care of herself, right? Because men are visual, right? And women aren't. Women are more into the feelings and security and things like that. But most men, I guarantee you, if a beautiful woman's walking down the street, they're not worried about her credit score, how much money she make, or anything like that. They are trying to holler. And the end state for a man is different than a woman, unless you're talking about marriage.
So then that's why
I feel like that's generational. A generational thing. Yeah? No? Okay, go ahead, T. Go ahead, Tia. She gonna school us.
Mine is 60. Okay. Different generation. Priorities not like that. Also came out of a long-term marriage. There's different things that are attractive to people though. And there's also, again, and James, you said earlier that I proved your point. The point that I actually proved was that the conversations that I failed to have at the beginning while I was dating my ex-husband is what led to some of my discovery while I was with my ex-husband. But I failed to have the conversations on the front end. That's the point. I failed to have the conversations on the front end, critical conversations. I had those I came to those conversations towards the tail end of that marriage. So it wasn't that I didn't discover, I overlooked a whole lot of things that were red flags. And I didn't have critical conversations when I should have had critical conversations. But no, I don't. And I feel like the generalizations that you're making are stressing me out. Oh.
Get some oxygen, calm down. We're just having a conversation.
I'm very calm.
I'm just making a point.
I agree with James. I think it's generational as well. I do think that I can honestly tell you, most of the men I know and myself, I don't care about how much money my potential partner makes. I really don't.
But here's the thing: leveraging.
Don't care.
What are you leveraging? So when that woman that you're talking about, you don't care about how much money she makes and you only care about how she looks, when she shows up in a way that's telling you exactly who she is, exactly who you saw, why are you mad? Why are you upset? Why are you frustrated? Why are you expecting the relationship to work? She showed you exactly who she was. To Tanisha's point, she showed you exactly who she was. You bought into exactly who she was, what she was, because that's all you were looking for. So why be disappointed with when you got what you got, what you wanted?
Oh no, I fully agree. So when you identify the real pretty ones, then you start vetting in that pool of, hey,
so
I've segregated down to have the physical attributes that I want. Now I'm going to drill into teachability, trainability, and stuff like that. You know what
Man,
I'm struggling now. I'm struggling here.
I'm very practical. I'm a very practical individual.
So is it okay? So I get attractiveness, right? When I met, I'm struggling because it wasn't my looks. Just like, yes, I found. Gosh, I just need a pause. Hold on, because there was so much that y'all said. The trainability, that word is
triggering.
Yes, the trainability. But y'all, it's can you have a real conversation? Like, I know when I met D, the conversation was like, let's not let it end. There was more to know and more to learn, and he became more attractive in those conversations. It was like, yes, initially I saw him as being handsome. Yeah, God dang it, he was. I was like, wait, who's this that just walked in my office? However, I have seen tons of attractive men whose insides are rotten. And so, and who have no depth and honesty, and the conversation goes nowhere. So as I continued to conversate with him, he became even more. And I don't know if just the attractive is enough. It's like she's pretty, but what else is there? And then when do you decide to have more conversation? You're talking about teachability and trainability, but
I agree. We need to see everybody's face. I want to see everybody's face.
Okay.
Anyway,
I feel what you're saying. I think you got to break it up.
Teachability is more so like me saying, I want a younger person so I can train them how I want them to act. That's what it seems like. There is.
Or
yes,
what's going to be
no. I feel like, but I also feel like then you're downgrading them in a sense, and not you're not like giving them that room to come in, and you actually acknowledging what they do have, because then you'll start dismantling what they already have just to teach them how you want things to be done, and sometimes that can devalue a woman's worth.
So, well, I'll do my best to blend it. I'll let her, bring everything she got, throw it all out there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it up.
I think
so gumbo, like the gumbo pot.
So look, when a man dates, this is what I used to do. There's ABC: your appearance, your brains, and your character, right? So, if any of those don't jive, it's not happening. But when I see a woman, right? I'm married now. My wife's in another room. You're not listening. So you see a woman, you say, damn, she looks good. I'm going to holler at her, right? I don't care about your credit score. I don't care about none of the other stuff you're talking about. Those deep conversations. I love to talk. I got deep conversations all day. Me and Dr. B have had some whirlwind conversations. Nathan too, right? But men don't care about how much you make, how educated you are, none of that. They're looking at your physical appearance and basically your character. When we have that conversation, I can tell what kind of person you are, that it attracts me to you, and then we can go deeper down the rabbit hole. But originally, when a man meets you, they're trying to, and this is a tough conversation, they're trying to bed you down, right? They're not trying to write no essays with you and raise a family when they first see you. You have a target on your back, targeting you for termination, right? I'm making a joke out of it, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Most men don't care about that. Oh, she looks so intelligent. Let me have a conversation with her. No, that's not how it works.
Dr.
Right?
B.
We're older now and we're mature, but when we're younger, it's different. That makes sense?
I want to hear Dr. B. I want to hear Dr. B. I was like, yeah, I want to hear Dr. B.
Okay.
What you got?
I am in a whole different world because that is not James. You are for where I'm at and who I am. I do care how much they make. I do care, about what they know. I do care about who they are. Because when I'm thinking about a relationship, I'm thinking about if I'm going to start dating them, then they're a possibility for marriage. That if I'm going to even start. So if I'm doing that, now I'm starting to think, what characteristics, if I were to have a child with this person, would I want my child to have? That's how I'm thinking about it. And when I think about levels of training, right? If I think of the 4 levels of parenting, training is where you teach authority. So you don't train anybody other than to respect and understand authority. Then after that, then you go into teaching. And so now you start teaching them the why that you were training them on authority. So you can't train an adult. I guess you can talk about the authority, but you can't just train somebody to do so. I guess that's a military thing where you have to train somebody to be able to fight. So you're training them to respect the level of command and the levels of command and to do what you're told to do. But then when you get to the teaching part, when I think of officers, I'm thinking, okay, now you're learning why all that training is important. And then you go into the responsibility side of it where you start talking about responsibility. And now you're taking responsibility for the things that why that were part of your teaching. So when I think of a relationship or a marriage or coming together with somebody, it's what do we do together? I'm going to go down with the ship. That's me. I'm going to go down with whatever that ship is that we're putting together, that we're steering in the direction. And I'm not looking for a way out. I do understand protection, and I do understand, hey, especially the older you get, the more things you have bringing into it, the more baggage you have. So you have to work harder at it. But I'm not, is attractiveness important? Yes, I'm not going to say it's not on both sides because we are attracted to different people. But it doesn't matter how attractive somebody is if they're not bringing something, at least to my table. I mean, I don't know, but I have to at the same time. If my job is to serve others, then my job is to serve my partner. And if I can do an incredible job at serving my partner, then everything else, all my needs, I believe, will be taken care of. That's how I'm approaching it, or the way that I think of it. And I think if more men thought that way, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If we could get so many men to believe, hey, my job is to serve. And then the same thing on the women's side. My job is to serve. And we serve each other. And if we do that, we're not having this conversation.
That part.
The problem is that we don't. And we start without trusting. We start with, our appreciation. So, Nathan, I'm bringing this up, but you said, I'm going to teach you how to do, how to live in my house or work my house or something like that. And I'm going, oh my gosh, isn't it our house?
I didn't quite mean it like that.
Well, that's what you said.
That's what I said.
That's what you said.
So
we're outnumbered, Nathan. We're outnumbered. Just salute the flag.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I misspoke. I misspoke on that.
That's what I was so hurt with the teachable part. I was like, hold on, wait a second.
Teachable is fine. Trainable is
you have to learn each other. I think
people got to be both. I think we can't have soft feelings and keep trying to get away from that word trainability. That still has a valuable place. It really
Why
does.
though? Why
why the training?
Yeah, Nathan.
Train the dog, Nathan.
Well, because like it's almost like it's like breaking them down to build them back up. It's when I think of training, like
if that's required, but
why? Because that's in the military, right? That is done in the military. But we're talking about individuals. Maybe it's sharing information to help them have like an aha moment for themselves to grow. But train sounds like break down and then build to who you would like them to be, versus allowing them to shine in their greatness and become aware of their greatness, their wealth, their royalty, so that they can step in it with confidence. That's like the teachability, like, oh my goodness, you are amazing. And you may not recognize it right now, but you're going to be able, as that individual, whether you're a sister, a brother, a confidant, a husband, a wife, it doesn't matter, where you're like able to pull out of that individual the greatness that they couldn't see in themselves. So if financially they would be dope because they really love math, but they don't have all the principles, and you have that, that's where you would come in and coach and teach them so that they're more aware and confident in their skills that they already have. That's the value that they have. But training, that just
I think that's where I left it when I was being too succinct, because you hit it on the head perfectly. That if I was thinking more of a group of people, each to their level, meaning if you need a lot of training, you're going to get it. But if you don't, like you said,
let it go. Let it go.
I just think you changed the word.
Brother, why are you
And I was rocking with you, Nathan. I was like,
we're not going to use trainability anymore.
So a lot to unpack. So Dr. B, I'm gonna tell you that our age, most of the people here are mature, right? So when we having these general conversations, I'm not talking about me specifically, or Nathan, or you, or anybody else. I'm talking about our sector of society as a whole, right?
Yeah,
I don't know any young black men 20 years, 30 years old say, you know what? I need to go get married, right? Let me show her my credit report and all of that stuff. That's not going to happen. Most young men, hold on.
I know a
most
few
young men look for women on physical attractiveness, what they can do with them. They're not thinking about marriage. I mean, right off the bat. Now, your son might be different because you raised him right? You raised him how you want him to act and feel or whatever. But some of us, I'm from New York City, right? My father and mother, yes, we went to church and all that kind of stuff, but they didn't spend a lot of time with me talking about relationships. Sex was a bad word in my house. If you even said sex, you might get a punch in the jaw or something, right? If you had a girlfriend, you had to keep whatever you did out of the house, right? We didn't even really talk about money in my house. It was a bad word. Go to family reunion. And so I went to my family reunion. This is kind of off topic. And I said, hey, why don't we do like I see a lot of white families do? They start a trust like the Rockefellers, right? When somebody dies, and I told you about this, Nathan, when somebody dies, that life insurance policy goes into the trust, and the trust acts like a bank. It can lend money out, whatever. Man, I almost got shot in the head. Talk about money. Oh, just like church, you can't talk about money. We need you to donate. Oh, no. So getting back to what we were talking about, a lot of black males don't have the necessity to get married because they get what they want from a woman, living with her, dating with her. So why should I marry you? Like I said, because, and I'm not talking about me per se, T. I see you welling up over there. Reach for the oxygen. But I'm talking about young black men are not thinking about marriage. Just go up to any young black man, 20, 30 years old. Hey, you want to get married, or you're thinking about getting married? The answer is overwhelmingly going to be no.
Well, all right, so we are going to, T, I'm going to let you finish, and then we're going to finish tonight. So you're going to finish your comments here. We're going to come back next week because we're not going to solve this in one time. So it's going to take time. But T, I want you to go ahead, and I'm going to give everybody a chance just to give one minute closing statement about what your thoughts are still about money and romance, I guess. So Tia, go ahead. You're up.
Okay, so now I agree with the comment about generational. So yes, I do think there are generational aspects, but how long are we going to rely on that as the excuse to not train up our children? How long do we want this conversation to continue to have to be had? How long do we want to how long do we want to see relationships fail or relationships not progress or people be in healthy spaces and healthy relationships? How long do we want to continue to allow that to happen? So how long do we want to continue to say, well, in 10 years from now, those 20, 30 somethings back here, they wasn't concerned, or they're not concerned about, okay, so when do we want the pattern to change? How long are we going to stop thinking about or adding value to what was not taught in the generations or not accepted in the previous generations? How long? Because we shouldn't continue to have the same conversation. If we want things to change, we got to elevate the conversation. We have to elevate this opportunity. We have to elevate the teaching. Now, in this context, Nathan, this context, training, yes, train up a child. Our babies right now are in a child space maturity wise. So they do need to be taught how to be in relationships. Most of us were not taught how to be in relationships. We kind of just discovered it, made some oopses on the way. But our babies, we're in a space now that we are old enough to teach them something different, offer them something different, guide them differently, mentor them differently, and share some of our mistakes and missteps so they don't follow in some of our same footsteps. So we can't continue to use previous generations and what was accepted, what was expected, and what was not a thing back here, because we all big and at these big ages. So we shouldn't have to have this conversation. That's it. That's all.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you guys. I'll go ahead. Nathan, what's your final thoughts?
Just that I guess we have a lot more to talk about when it comes to money and understanding finances. I mean, there's so much to it. Trying to trade about the trade-off between what's been passed down and what the current level of knowledge is. Because I actually think, to what you said, Tia, that it's gone down. That we might even need to, like, saying people are, you know, where they're at now, they should be, I guess, be trained to a different standard, well, teachable to a different level. I think some of the understandings of decency, of family, of so many things is even lower now with generations that are succeeding us. That there's like more work we have to do. But I don't want to run on, but I just think we have a lot of discussion.
Fair.
Tanisha.
I believe that there is still more work. I was asking my son, he's 19, about his idea of dating and like what it's supposed to lead to, what he thinks. And he's like, yeah, at 19, he's not thinking to get married right now, but if he is dating, he is looking to see if that person, that individual, if she is marriage material. And that is based on conversations that I have had with him. So coming from the youth, no, he doesn't, at 19, he doesn't want to be married, but he is like, if I'm having a conversation with you, this isn't a one night thing. This is going to be over time. And if we're serious, do you have marriage materials? And then looking at himself, am I marriage materials, or is there still more work? So I think overall from this conversation, what I hear is that each individual needs to do some deep work, some self-work to understand who they are coming into the relationship as and who they want to show up as. Because a lot of times we put it on the other side of the person that we are married to or that we are dating. It has nothing to do with them. They're going to mirror us. It's mirror, mirror. And so if we do that work, that deep work to understand who we are right now, is this who we want to continue to be, or who is it that we want to become, holding on to the things that are good and pure, humane, if that is the word that we want to use, but are of love, like pure love, then we hold on to those, and the things, the ideologies and paradigms that are no longer serving, that we let go of them so we can show up as the best version of ourselves. And then that person on the other side can help mirror that. And then we add value to every space, place, and person's life that we enter. I think this is an individual space and place that we need to come from versus that other person on the other side.
Thank you. James, that was great.
That was. So I think we have a lot of problems in the Black community that we're not going to solve in an hour or 2 hours in the conversation. I do think we need to get back to the nuclear family, right? So we can show the next generation what right looks like, right? And since I'm going to put this on females, right? Because you're the first teacher of the children, right? So you need to teach them what you want them to go forward in life with. And I'll leave it there.
All right. Tahani, I guess. I'm sorry.
You're muted.
Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry. I was laughing at Tia's facial expressions. So.
Gotcha. No, I was just your closing thoughts. Your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts are, I just want to piggyback off that last statement that he said, that we kind of need to like teach our kids what we would want them to see. And me and my fiance were talking about with us getting engaged. Like we're breaking, it's more than just an engagement. It's like breaking generational curses, because only my mother and father were married, but a lot of, I don't know, like not a lot of people that we know, friends, family are married. So Loved the conversation and can't wait till next week.
All right.
I won't be here next week, but I'll be with you in spirit.
We'll let Nathan speak for you.
Nah,
Yeah,
Jane,
Nathan can
can't
speak
just
for me.
drop something like that and then just bail.
Like
Okay,
Well,
sir.
there'll be the week following, right?
Okay.
I'll see
You
if I
gonna
can
get you
do
in
it.
them texts.
All right.
Okay. You call me anytime. I love to come.
All right, Tia, what's your final thoughts?
Oh, I did. Oh,
Did Nathan? Oh, never mind.
that wasn't that my final thought.
I thought that was.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that was really good. So we can leave it there
No.
until next time we come. So want to just thank everybody for being on. One of the things that I guess I get to end with when I think about should a man be alone? God said man should not be alone. And when he talked about man, he was talking about Adam. And Adam meant man and woman, and then later Adam named Eve. And so men and women should not be alone. So I want to first just kind of start with that. The phenomena of men, and like you said, James, I believe is probably true that young men don't want to get married. It shouldn't be that way, and it hasn't been that way for very long. If you go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, then men did want to be together. They were looking. They did know how to date. They did know the leave it to beaver whatever world that we want to talk about then. But it's since then, and since we've been breaking up men and taking men out of households and doing a lot of stuff, that now the norm is, well, women don't want me, I don't want them, and we shouldn't be together. And so, like you guys said, we are not going to solve this in an hour and a half. But if we can begin to start having these conversations that people can hear, and so I think next time we come together, let's talk about generations. Let's talk about what has happened, and then maybe some solutions to be able to do it, so that when people do watch these broadcasts and do listen to this podcast, they can go, wait a minute, maybe I should be training. I don't know, James. You said I want to leave it up to the ladies to train the kids. I don't know if it shouldn't be both parents that are doing it. I think the man has to be an example. And I don't know if it's the women who are seeing the kids when they come out of, I can remember when my kids were born and that they were in my arms from day one, and I was talking to, and they were seeing me, and maybe I was out of the house and my wife was in the house, and but let's figure out what that responsibility should look like, and who takes that responsibility. I don't know. And so again, thank you guys. If you guys, anybody who's watching this or on, if you have an opportunity to do goal setting with me on Tuesday, it's at 10:30 Mountain Time. It's brianyarall.com/2025 goals. We are going to talk about how do we achieve the things that we want to achieve. And so thank you guys for another great episode. Thank you for literally being not only vulnerable, but being willing to express your true thoughts, because I don't think it works if we don't have honest communication. And I think it's a group of people who are doing it and are talking about it and are willing to say what they believe. So I appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful, incredible day. We will be texting this week together, folks. Talk to you soon.
Have a great week.
Night, y'all.
Have a great